He survived deployments. He survived sacrifice. He built a life, dollar by dollar, the old-fashioned way, with his hands, his discipline, and a belief that hard work meant something. He was driving to see his daughters. He wasn't speeding. He wasn't drunk. He wasn't carrying drugs. He wasn't wanted by anyone. He was just a father on a highway, and in the next 90 minutes, the state of Nevada would take everything he had. $86,900 gone. No arrest. No charges. No crime. Welcome to civil asset forfeiture, one of the most controversial and least talked about legal practices in the United States. And this is the story of Steven Lara, the retired Marine who decided to fight back. February 19th, 2021. Steven Lara, Lackland, Texas, is headed to Portola, California to spend the weekend with his two daughters. He's driving carefully, under the speed limit, signaling, doing everything right. But Trooper Chris Brown of the Nevada Highway Patrol is watching. And he pulls Steven over. The official reason? Unsafe following distance, coming up too close behind a tanker truck for a fraction of a second. Now here is what you need to know before this story goes any further. Trooper Brown isn't just a regular patrol officer. He is part of what is called highway interdiction, a specialized program designed to catch drug traffickers moving money, weapons, and contraband across state lines. The following distance was the door. The real investigation had already started the moment Steven's plates were run. Steven steps out. He's polite, calm, and completely open. He tells the officer he's a retired Marine. He's going to see his daughters. He answers every single question without hesitation. Do you have any weapons? No. Any drugs? No. Any large amounts of U.S. currency? Steven pauses, and then he tells the truth. Yeah. Over 10,000. Trooper Brown asks, how much? Steven says, about 100 grand. And just like that, the nature of this traffic stop changed forever. Trooper Brown asks Steven if he'd be okay with a search of the vehicle. Steven says yes, and I want to stop here because this is the moment that matters most in this entire story. In the United States, you have the right to refuse a vehicle search. If an officer does not have a warrant and you have not consented, they cannot search your car. That is the Fourth Amendment. That is your right. But Steven didn't know that refusing was an option. Or maybe he did know, and felt that saying no would make him look guilty when he had nothing to hide. That is exactly what these systems count on, because the moment you say yes, you hand over every legal protection you have. A second trooper arrives with a drug detection dog named Jill, nicknamed Jilly Bean. She's brought to Steven's rental car, and she alerts. Positive hit. Now, here is a fact that the officers did not mention. A fact documented by the Journal of Forensic Sciences. Between 67 and 100% of all circulated U.S. currency carries trace amounts of cocaine, not because the money was used in a drug deal, but because bills pass through so many hands, wallets, ATMs, and cash drawers that contamination is nearly unavoidable. A drug dog alerting to a bag of cash means almost nothing, but it was enough. Trooper Brown searches the trunk. He finds a camouflage backpack. Inside, a Ziploc sandwich bag full of $100 bills. Steven's life savings. The money he'd been building since the day he entered the Marine Corps in the year 2000. While Steven stands at the side of the road, patient, cooperative, believing this will all work itself out, Trooper Brown steps away and makes a phone call. He calls DEA agent Shane Murray. Hey, Shane, I've got a big bundle of money out here. Probably at least 100,000. Minutes later, Sergeant Glenn Rigdon arrives on scene. He gets on the phone with Agent Murray too. According to court documents, Murray tells Rigdon it's too easy to do an adoption. Adoption, that is the word they use. Not seizure, not forfeiture, adoption, like taking in something helpless. Here is how it works. Under the U.S. Department of Justice's Equitable Sharing Program, when a federal agency and a state agency partner on a seizure like this, the money gets split. The DEA keeps 20%, the Nevada Highway Patrol keeps 80% on 86,900 dollars. That's nearly 70,000 going back to the Highway Patrol. The bank teller, when the troopers later came to deposit the cash, was caught on camera saying, "You must have had your ears burning. I was just complaining about not having enough hundreds in my drawer." This was not justice. This was a transaction. Sergeant Rigdon approaches Stephen, and he tells him what's about to happen. "We believe this is drug proceeds. We're going to seize it today." Stephen looks him dead in the eye. "That money right there is for my 2 daughters. I take that money and I buy them things. I put food on their table. I buy them clothes. That is me, looking at you man to man in your eyes and telling you exactly what that is." The sergeant doesn't flinch. "I believe it's drug proceeds." Stephen tells them he wants a drug test. Right there. Right now. He offers to call his bank. He points to the receipts in the bag, withdrawal records, deposit histories, everything. He tells them he can prove every dollar. None of it matters, the sergeant tells him, if it is legitimately earned income. You'll be able to prove it, and they'll give you all your money back. What he does not say is how expensive that process is. How many people never get their money back simply because hiring a lawyer costs more than the amount that was taken? They bag the money. They seal it. They load it into a police vehicle, and as Trooper Brown prepares to leave, Stephen stops him. "Officer Brown, I know you're just doing your job, but you're taking food out of my kids' mouths. That's my life. That is everything I have." Trooper Brown walks away. Stephen gets back in his rental car, broke, stunned, hands shaking, and drives away into the Nevada desert. No arrest, no charges, no crime. But here is what the Nevada Highway Patrol did not count on. Steven Lara is a Marine. He did not go home and give up. He got an attorney. He reached out to the Institute for Justice, a non-profit that fights abuses of government power and advocates specifically for forfeiture reform. They took his case. The story made it to the front page of the Washington Post, and suddenly, the Nevada Highway Patrol had a serious problem. Under federal law, the government had 90 days from the filing of a valid claim to either obtain a criminal indictment, get an extension, or initiate civil forfeiture proceedings. They did none of those things. They just waited and waited and waited, hoping perhaps that Stephen would give up like so many others do. He didn't. 6 months after the stop, only after the lawsuit was filed, and only after the media spotlight made looking away impossible, every single dollar was returned to Steven Lara, all $86,900, but Stephen wasn't finished. Not even close. He and the Institute for Justice also filed suit against the Nevada Highway Patrol in state court, not just for his money, but for the principal. So this cannot keep happening to people who don't have his resources, his receipts, or his persistence. In January 2024, a federal judge rejected the Highway Patrol's motion to dismiss the case. The fight is still going. Here is what civil asset forfeiture actually is. It is a legal process that allows law enforcement to permanently take your property, your cash, your car, your home, without ever charging you with a crime, without a trial, without a conviction. In many states, the burden of proof is not on the government to show you're guilty. It is on you to prove your own innocence, and most people cannot afford to do that. A study by the Institute for Justice found that the median amount seized in federal forfeiture cases is just $1,276. An amount so small that the legal cost to fight it back makes it impossible for most families to try. The system is designed to prey on people who have no way to fight back. Stephen was one of the fortunate ones. He had receipts. He had determination. He had media attention. He had a non-profit willing to take his case for free. Most people have none of that. So if you take one thing from this video, let it be this: you have the right to say no. If you are ever pulled over, you do not have to consent to a vehicle search. You do not have to answer questions beyond providing your name, your license, and your registration. You can, politely but firmly, say, "I do not consent to a search." You can ask, "Am I free to go?" That is not obstructing justice. That is exercising your constitutional rights. And it may be the most important thing you ever say on the side of a road. Steven Lara served this country for 2 decades. He came home. He built something. He tried to give his daughters a life, and for 90 minutes on a Nevada highway, a system that was supposed to protect him tried to take it all away. He fought back, and he won. But the law that made it possible is still on the books, and it is still happening every single day to people who don't win. If this story moved you, share it, because sunlight is the best disinfectant. And the more people who know about this, the harder it becomes for it to keep happening in the dark. I'll see you in the next one.